Donald Trump just held a town hall with women voters in the battleground state of Georgia, and whose idea was this? I genuinely think that if Trump stopped campaigning 1 month ago, he would have a higher chance of winning than he does now, because with every single public appearance that he makes, whether it's at an economic club in Chicago, whether it's a speech in Pennsylvania where Elon Musk is jumping behind him, or whether it's with Harris Faulkner in his home ground of Fox News, he just can't land. He can't land anything, and he's losing his mind in front of our eyes. With 20 days to go, we have no time to waste. All that I ask of you is to drop a like, make sure you watch till the end, and let's start off with this clip of Trump being asked about abortion by a woman voter in Georgia, and he responds by bragging about the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Just take a look.
So, facing the question of abortion, women are entitled to do what they want to and need to do with their bodies, including their unborn. That's on them, regardless of the circumstance. Some are necessary to save their own lives. Why is the government involved in women's basic rights?
Right, good. I think it's great, and I'm glad you asked it. For 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. Every legal scholar, the great ones, every lawyer, but the Democrats, the Republicans, the liberals, the conservatives, they wanted it brought out of the federal government and brought back to the states for a vote of the people. And like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. I strongly believe. You know, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't. It's a very small percentage, but you have to follow your heart. But you have the exceptions. But what we were able to do is through really the courage of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do this after years and years of turmoil. Now it's back in the states. The states are voting for it.
There is so much to unpack here, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, I just want to say, why would we want a civilly liable sexual abuser to be in charge of what women can do or cannot do? Number 2, everything he said there was a lie, especially when he says the majority of Americans wanted Roe v. Wade to be overturned, and especially when he says that the majority of legal scholars, all of the greatest ones, wanted Roe v. Wade to be overturned. Great legal scholars in Donald Trump's eyes are Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and John Eastman, who have all been disbarred in one state or another. But really quickly, this reads, majority of public disapproves of Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. 62% of Americans say abortion should be legal in all or most cases. Little change since before the court's decision. And another 10% are undecided, so really it's only a small minority of the country that wanted Roe v. Wade to be left up to the states. And finally, the final debunking is Donald Trump acts like leaving Roe v. Wade up to the states is a moderate position, but that actually just leaves states up to taking the most extreme position. We can cite Arizona, which reverted back to a law from 1864. We can cite Georgia, which we've seen multiple women die after they were denied access to basic, fundamental health care. Now, Donald Trump just lied throughout that whole clip, but we're just beginning. In this clip, Donald Trump and Harris Faulkner are talking about fossil fuels.
We have it. Some countries could never make that pledge.
Is that, real quickly,
it's going to bring everything down with it.
We're going to take a quick break here. I just want to make the transition to this. You've talked about electric vehicles. What you're setting up is a point where we can do fossil fuel and survive for a little while before we have to make that next gap, that next jump?
Well,
is this a transition point?
The problem with electric vehicles, and Elon Musk is a very good friend of mine. He endorsed me and you saw him the other night in Butler, Pennsylvania. Was he having a good time?
This is weaving to the extreme right now. He just completely pivoted, didn't even talk about what Harris Faulkner asked him whatsoever. And Trump keeps implying that fossil fuels are going to be around forever. I don't know if he understands how that works. Watch this clip.
But the numbers get made up by the people that we can't see in the flights. And all of it has a burden on the economy. So I want to ask you.
And you know, the word is probation. They use a word probation.
That's one of the programs.
In order to get the people in legally, they call them probation. Probation is for prisoners. So they use this in Springfield, Ohio. So you have 32,000 people coming into a 50,000 community. You can't get into the hospitals. You can't get your kids into school. They're taking over the school, and they're looking for interpreters because the people that came in don't speak the language. I mean, other than that, it's a wonderful situation. It's They're destroying our country.
So the parole that he's talking about, that parole program that he's talking about, is something that has been pretty opaque. And I think now there's a press to find out exactly how many people are coming in through it. We do need to know.
I like how Harris Faulkner has to gently, very gently correct him, because he's on Fox News, of course, and he'll throw a fit if they correct him in any meaningful way. MeidasTouch points out, is he talking about immigration parole, which has nothing to do with prisoners? This may be even worse than him confusing asylum seekers with insane asylums. He truly does not know anything, and his brain is fried. He keeps confusing these words. He's done it multiple times, and I'm going to blow your mind one more time. When Trump says that immigrants are getting visas, they're coming over with massive amounts of visas, credit cards. He's confusing credit cards with applying for a visa. The same way that he's confusing seeking for asylum, the same way that he's confusing seeking asylum with somebody coming from an insane asylum. There are two meanings to these words, but Trump can't hold two ideas in his head at the same time, like he can't even understand that Kamala Harris has a Jamaican father and an Indian American mother. That is how it works. Here's Trump talking about immigration to a room full of women.
So bad. We don't care. Do whatever you want to do. We have to have borders if we don't have borders, but we also want to have people come in. You know, we actually need people. We sort of like all these companies that we're going to bring in through taxation. We're going to bring in a lot of companies. They've got to have people to work. Otherwise, bringing them in is not going to work either. You need to.
That's just a weird flip-flop on everything he said for years. He has always been somebody who says, shut it down, close the border down, deport them all. He has said deport all 15 million immigrants. He's never somebody to take some gray stance and say, you know, we suddenly need immigrants. It is a weird take. And does he want them? Does he not want them? He's vague on every single policy position because he doesn't have any. He has concepts of a plan when it comes to healthcare. When it comes to abortion, he flip-flops on a 6-week ban every single day. When it comes to Ukraine, he says, we'll see what happens. I guess we'll see what happens. This man is incapable of taking any policy positions. Here is Donald Trump talking to Harris Faulkner about immigration.
They've never seen anything like this. You know, we have another thing. If you touch a foot, if you put 1 foot into our country, congratulations, you have a lawsuit. You don't take the person and move the person into, out. You've got to go through years of litigation. We have lawyers that wait for people to come in, years. You've got to see the court system. We have thousands of judges at the border. No other country has judges at the border. If somebody walks in, they walk them out. Our country is in trouble.
Jared Ryan rightfully points out, we have judges to determine if someone qualifies for asylum. There are international asylum laws that many countries abide by, which means they also have judges to determine qualification. This happens across the board. Our country is not in trouble, and border crossings are lower than when Trump left office. Also, our judges aren't sitting at the border. Who even thinks like that? And let me remind you guys, there was a bill written by some of the most conservative senators, you know, the one by James Lankford, that said that we should increase funding for Border Patrol agents, increase the amount of judges that can decide these asylum cases, therefore making the process more smooth. And going back to what Trump said a few clips ago, he wants people to come in, I guess. At the same time, he wants to deport them all. But Jared Sears is absolutely right here, and here are the actual facts. There are 682 immigration judges. There are 62 courts, and there are 3 adjudication centers. And keep in mind, these immigration judges aren't sitting at the border. That's weird. About 43,000 cases completed per month, about 500,000 cases completed per year. The backlog is about 3 million. And this reminds me of when I was talking to Trump supporters at a rally not long ago, and they said that we're going to deport 15 million immigrants, but just one by one. We're going to bust them out one by one, which is an insane way to think, especially considering that we don't even have the resources to properly naturalize people when they come over. Why would we want to waste all of these resources on kicking out families one by one? It's demented. Here's Trump talking about sanctuary cities with Harris Faulkner.
First of all, we are going to end all sanctuary cities immediately. We're going to end them because they're really...
Is that an executive order you do that with?
I can do it with an executive order. I'll have to do it with an executive order. You can do it with the Aliens Act of 1798. We can do things in terms of moving people out. We can move them out of the sanctuary cities. But for
How come all of the laws he cites are from 1798? When he says "Make America Great Again," he's talking about the Alien Act of 1798, or he's talking about that Arizona law from 1864. Is that when America was great? I think we're better than ever right now. We have some flaws, of course, but we can fix them. Someone said, "I understand the laws of Macedonia are different, but here in the United States of America, there is no specific federal law against sanctuary city policies. Like them or not, that's a different matter and up for debate. But Cheeto Messiah has no clue what he's saying, and it's absolutely absurd that this man is held up as some sort of political genius to some people. I don't get it. Here's Trump being asked about Adam Schiff, and we're about to get into the questions being asked by the women, and that's where it gets more interesting, seeing Donald Trump interact with the women voters of Georgia.
President, Kamala Harris has said you sounded unhinged and unchecked power is in our future. What do you say about that?
I thought it was a nice presentation. I wasn't unhinged. No, you know what they are? They're a party of sound bites. Somebody asked me, can they be brought together? You know, I never thought, really, I wasn't thinking like they could, because they're very, very different. And it is the enemy from within, and they're very dangerous. They're Marxists and communists and fascists, and they're sick. I use a guy like Adam Schiff because they made up the Russia hoax. It took 2 years to solve the problem. Absolutely nothing was done wrong, et cetera, et cetera. They're dangerous for our country. We have China, we have Russia, we have all these countries. If you have a smart president, they can all be handled. The more difficult are, the Pelosi's, these people, they're so sick and they're so evil. If they would spend their time trying to make America great again, it would be so easy to make this country great. But when I heard about that, they were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. But think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
All right.
They're the threat to democracy.
This is a question.
Being investigated more than Capone says more about you than it says about our institutions, which held throughout all of your stress tests. He's also gaslighting here at the end when he says that we're Marxist, communist, fascist. He can't define any of those words. When he says Democrats are the threat to democracy, he's doing that to obfuscate and hide the fact that he tried to pressure Mike Pence into subverting the will of the American people. Friend of the show, Jojo from Juror says, did he paint the walls or did the walls paint him? It's like the same color. It's indistinguishable. Here is a clip of Donald Trump being asked about IVF, and this is the one that is going viral. This is crazy.
I got a call from Katie Britt, a young, just a fantastically attractive person from Alabama. She's a senator. And she called me up like emergency. Because an Alabama judge had ruled that the IVF clinics were illegal and they have to be closed down. A judge ruled. And she said, friends of mine came up to me and they were so angry. I didn't even know they were going, it's fertilization. I didn't know they were even involved in it. Nobody talks about it. They don't talk about it. But now that they can't do it, she said, I was attacked. In a certain way, I was attacked. And I said, explain IVF very quickly. And within about 2 minutes, I understood it. I said, no, we're totally in favor of IVF.
Katie Britt had to explain what IVF was before he knew if he was in favor of it. This is a man who was in his 70s when this happened. He was probably 77 or 78 when this happened. And that is a massive gap in knowledge for somebody with his political stature right now in American politics. This man has the entire Republican Party wrapped around his finger, whether we're talking members of Congress or just Republican voters who will come out in November, and he doesn't know what IVF is. He admitted he didn't know what NATO was before he was the president. He was like 72. This man doesn't know the fundamental history of Israel-Palestine or Russia-Ukraine. He doesn't know anything about the Constitution. So again, there is a massive gap in knowledge between his power level right now and what he actually knows. And of course, I'm just pointing out the obvious to you guys, but he says he didn't know what IVF was. Here's him being asked about Adam Schiff one more time.
They're using your words to say that you are not for crime and keeping particularly women safe in ads. I want to take a look at what you said and just tell me, let's watch it.
If we have to.
Yeah.
We have two enemies. We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within. And the enemy from within, in my opinion, is more dangerous than China, Russia, and all these countries, because if you have a smart president, he can handle them pretty easily. But the thing that's tougher to handle are these lunatics that we have inside, like Adam Schiff. I call him the enemy from within.
Mr. President, Kamala Harris has said you sounded unhinged and unchecked power is in our future. What do you say about that?
I thought it was a nice presentation. I wasn't.
There's no way they laughed that off. He sounded like the Joker in this clip. He sounds like the Joker. He's like, there's enemies from within that we have to take out.
I wasn't unhinged. No, you know what they are? They're a party of sound bites.
It's just insane. Now, this is the one that I forgot to debunk as well. Donald Trump's entire career is made of sound bites. Whether he's saying drill baby drill, we are drilling at the highest rates ever. Whether he's saying lock her up, which he couldn't execute on. He couldn't do that. Or whether he's saying build that wall. He couldn't build the wall. And when he was saying that, over 50% of undocumented immigrants, illegal immigrants, if you want to say, were here on overstayed visas. They come here to work or to study, and then they overstay their visa. And we want people who are coming here to work or to be educated. Those are the most productive members of society, and I would be glad to integrate some immigrants over people like Donald Trump. This has to be the weirdest clip. Donald Trump calls himself the father of IVF.
All right, let's get this question, because I believe that's what this is about.
Oh, I want to talk about IVF. I'm the father.
You don't hear that every day.
I'm the father of IVF. So
He had to say it 3 times. We heard you the first time, man. Also, his makeup just looks so bad. Look at this shot, shows you how terrible his makeup is. But back to what he said, he's the father of IVF. This is a man trying to pivot and act like he is for the fundamental health care of women across America when he's the one that stripped it away. He's the antithesis of that. He does this thing where he speaks out of both sides of his mouth. Like if he was speaking to evangelicals later today, there is a reality where Donald Trump would say this: I am the father of IVF. Women can trust me. I want to protect them. And then he would say hours later that he is the one who is in charge of overturning Roe, that it was the best thing ever. He would take that extreme position. In fact, he essentially said that early on when he was asked this question by a woman about abortions. And it's insane what he said in response. She says, some abortions are necessary to save lives. Why should the government be involved? And Donald Trump starts rambling on about how he was responsible for overturning Roe.
Abortion. Women are entitled to do what they want to and need to do with their bodies, including their unborn. That's on them regardless of the circumstance. Some are necessary to save their own lives. Why is the government involved in women's basic rights?
Right, good. I think it's great, and I'm glad you asked it.
That tells me it was a planted question. He was waiting for that question. He's like, great, I'm glad you asked that.
In women's basic rights.
Right, good. I think it's great, and I'm glad you asked it. For 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart.
No, it has not.
Every legal scholar, the great ones, every lawyer, but the Democrats, the Republicans, the liberals, the conservatives, they wanted it brought out of the federal government and brought back to the states for a vote of the people.
I showed you guys that nobody wants that, and he's saying there was turmoil for 50 years, but I feel like it's the exact opposite. A lot of people knew nothing other than a life with Roe v. Wade being the law of the land. A lot of people thought that that was going to be the law forever, and nobody was crying about it other than the minority of evangelicals. Now we have 70% of the country out there like, damn, we need to get Roe v. Wade back, and Donald Trump might pay for it in November. I'm hoping he does if we can all turn out. Here is what's going really viral from this. CNN has a chyron that says, Trump calls himself the father of IVF in Fox Town Hall. Aaron Rupar says, highly normal stuff going on here. Highly normal quotes here. Quote, I'm the father of IVF, says Donald Trump. We are really the party for IVF. We want fertilization, and it's all the way, and the Democrats tried to attack us on it. Donald Trump wants fertilization all the way. You heard it here first, folks. Here's Donald Trump taking another question about immigrant crime.
Furthering the discussion on immigrant crime, along with liberal-run cities where crime is out of control. My son is a Georgia Bulldog. He was on campus the day Laken Riley was murdered. You know, terrifying for all those kids, right? I wanted to know, like, how quickly in a sanctuary city, like they're calling Athens, Georgia, how quickly can you remove those threats to our society so that our children can go out on a run, as they rightfully should be able to do in a park in the daytime by themselves? It should not be like that. And also, I was wondering, I watch television all the time. I see your ads. I don't see a lot of vocalness about these sort of crimes, these hideous crimes in your promotion. So I'm wondering why that is.
Well, we are into it. First of all, we are going to end all sanctuary cities immediately. We're going to end them.
It's just insane to me that this was marketed as an undecided women's panel in Georgia. Trump takes on undecided women and tries to convince them to vote for him. And it ended up being women asking about immigration and women asking planted questions. And I mean, no offense to her, I'm just saying, this is not a question I feel like the average voter is wondering about. Sanctuary cities. This is somebody who is involved in the MAGA universe. And Trump loves questions like this. It's the only way he would have done something like this on Fox News. If you enjoyed this video, if you appreciate what I do, all that I ask is that you drop a like, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell on. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.